Avery.com, Avary, for the most up-to-date news and information on Team Avery.
Avery, 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 Avery,
This is the Gala Show. I'm your reporter on the beat, Gala Avery. On this episode, you may know my guest as a comedian who has written, directed, or starred in one of your favorite comedy sketches. Or maybe you know him as the director of Werewolves Within. His newest film, Hard Eyes, is a genre mashup, rom-com horror about two colleagues that get mistaken for lovers on Valentine's Day and get targeted by the Heart Eye Killer, or HEK, a mask-wearing maniac that hates PDA. Today on the mic, I have filmmaker Josh Ruben.
Hi.
Josh, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks so much. That was a lovely intro.
Oh, thank you. So before we bring up the topic for today, I have a question for you. What was the movie that got you interested in actually making movies?
Oh, it feels passé to say Jaws, but I
don't think that's passé.
Well, you know, it's just it's like I'm another 41-year-old Caucasian male filmmaker. So I'm just like, well, you know what it was, another one. Oh, there goes the plane. Jaws was at least the first one I remember being like 5 or 6 years old, and somehow we watched it in our house, probably because it had a PG rating back then, despite Robert Shaw getting bitten in half. And I remember asking my mom how I do that, and my mom being like, "It's just ketchup. It's just ketchup." Whenever there'd be blood, so it was. I remember that inquisition.
That was kind of the first time that you were like, how do they actually make a movie?
Yeah, so that's what I at least remember. But I think like the wanting to make movies piece of it was probably like discovering Joe Dante and The Burbs, because I started to recognize not only that it was a film, that it was fiction, but that I lived in an area like The Burbs in Potomac, Maryland, and so it felt like a fantastical extension of where I was, and I was like, ooh, there's a story that can be told in a location like mine where you can expand and you can add fantastical, I don't know.
That's amazing.
Yeah, flourishes.
Did you see Jaws in 3D when it came out? I think it re-released like 5 years ago in 3D.
Oh, yes, I did.
That was an amazing experience because they used the 3D to like amplify the split diopter shots.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that
yes.
was an amazing
I thought
experience.
you were asking about Jaws 3.
No,
and,
Jaws
and I
in
which I also
3D.
meant. Yes, I did. I remember it was like July.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
awesome.
exactly when you should see Jaws. Now, as always, my guest gets to bring their topic to the mic. So, Josh, why don't you tell us what your topic is and why you decided to choose it?
Well, my wife and I have had a head spinner of a month, and the question that's recurring could also be the theme, could also be the topic, which is where do we go from here? It's been a lot of like, where do we go? Where do we go in our lives? Where do we physically go? What location? What happens now? It's been a lot of questions, in like accompanying the bit of dread we felt after losing our house in the Eaton Fire.
In the fire, yeah.
Just to give some context, we had started the process of moving into this new house, so we lost an empty house we'd yet to latch memories to. And what I did lose in the, what stuff I had moved into the house was a lot of like childhood possessions, movie props. My wife lost a bunch of hard drives. I lost some art. It was like kind of the sticky, tasty stuff, the stuff that connects me,
stuff
that
that you
bridges.
really love, yeah.
Yeah, and so we were so ready to, after bursting out of this condo for many, many years, we're kind of like, oh my gosh, we're ready to finally like be adults, stretch out, feel like, we're moving along in our lives because of the stigma of home ownership. And then when we lost it, we felt so traumatized, and yet now there's a little bit of a sense of relief only in the clarity of literal and figurative smoke clearing. Where do we go? What do we do? And within the same 30 days of the house going, I have my first studio movie coming out. So it's like this cosmic kick in the crotch, but also this emotional high. So an emotional high and an emotional low, and with, us waking up with headaches and the, wildfire smoke in our old apartment, thank God we didn't get rid of yet. We're like, wow, okay, so we have to go, right? Where do we go from here? So it's been a lot of that.
But before we get into the topic, it's time for a commercial break. Back by popular demand, the Video Archives merch store is up and running. Get your favorite t-shirts, hats, notebooks, stickers, and more at videoarchivesmerch.com. You know me. I write all my notes in the Notes on Cinema notebook, the Gala edition, of course. Check out videoarchivesmerch.com to get yours today. Hey, thanks so much for being a loyal listener. If you want to keep up with me off mic, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Gala Avery. And we're back. So that's our topic for today. Where do we go from here? I have 30 minutes on the clock and our time starts now.
Oh my God.
So are you from California originally? No.
No, I was born in Washington, D.C., but I grew up in the gorgeous hamlet of Woodstock, New York. Actually, a little mountain hamlet above Woodstock, New York called Shady.
Yeah. And when did you come to Los Angeles?
I came in 2016, I think I moved officially.
The funny thing I talk about with people, because I'm born and raised in LA, but I have this belief that Los Angeles makes you an Angelino. Like, you don't have to be from here to become someone who is from here.
I love that you're saying that as an official Angelino.
Yeah, I'm an official Angelino, and the thing that I love about this city is the mosaic. It's like, I told you, this is why I do my show. I love the mosaic of the people that bring their culture to Los Angeles and make Los Angeles what it is. So when you say, where do we go from here, it makes me a little bit nervous, because, losing you from Los Angeles, I hope you're not thinking about, leaving Los Angeles, but it's all the people that have lost their homes and have lost their possessions and have lost all of their memories also, of their physical things. Where do they go from here? Do they stay here? Do they rebuild?
I can't fathom. And my wife and I are counting our blessings because, we may have lost some possessions, but we don't have kids who woke up without a school, or God forbid without a neighborhood, or with a house standing that they can't live in for the next few years. Ours was a total loss, and so the question becomes, the debate is, well, do we leave this city that we love that's still filled with community? Some of our community is starting to go, especially those with kids. Well, I'm going to go to this part of the country. I'm going to move east.
I'm going to go back to my parents' house, or I have a few friends who lost their homes in the Malibu fire, and thankfully a few of them are well, I'm just going to move back home to kind of I know someone who's moving back to Tennessee, and it's it's a great loss for the community, because that person, that artist, that creator is no longer going to be in Malibu, which is an artist collective. But I'm so thankful that they have somewhere to go.
Yeah, again, I can't imagine rolling out of the neighborhood with just the clothes on your back and just your pet and just your kiddo, and having 30 plus years or several generations of stuff to kind of, because that's the head spinner, has been okay, how do we catalog all the stuff that we lost? But that thing of feeling stuck, and that debate of I don't want to lose my community, but I'm also have anxiety about my health, and then I've got to put on a pretty face and promote my new movie. So it's okay, so after I get this business done of pounding the pavement with this joyous moment in my life, do we detox ourselves by going to the desert so that we can maintain a close relationship to Los Angeles and kind of let the desert tell us? That's what we've been saying to each other. Oh, we'll just let the desert tell us what the next step is. Yeah, but I don't really know. I mean, now that the kind of air has cleared, quote unquote, it's technically better to breathe, at least, according to my lungs and senses today. we don't know what the long-term kind of thing is.
No, they don't. And you look at like the survivors of 9/11. That's like one of the good comps. And I have a friend who lives in New York, and his dad's a doctor, and he texted me and he said, yeah, my dad treated the people that were in 9/11
Oof.
and like, watch out for your lungs right now.
Yeah.
And it made me think, and I'm not even in the city where it's like mostly affected, and the wind blew the other way for me. So I'm, even though it's like I'm still watching, you just have to think about it. But one thing that when you talk about it, it's like you are in this high right now of your very first studio film being released. But I know that when you finish a movie, there is also a little bit of postpartum that comes with that.
Oh, completely. Oh my
And
God.
it's so difficult. People that have not made a movie do not know how difficult it is to make a movie.
Yeah.
And even when you have a studio backing you, there are like the longest days, and all of a sudden you're like an army with your crew, and you're getting through the toughest times, the night shoots. And I know there were a lot of night shoots in Hard Eyes, and you're getting through it. And then it's like you have to kind of let your baby walk, and it walks away, and it becomes something, and it takes on personality, and people judge it, and they either love it or they don't. And you must also be feeling a little bit of that postpartum too.
I felt it a lot more. It eclipsed me in, I want to say, gosh, it got its worst in October. Kind of at the tail end of the edit, even though I was sitting on a comfortable couch with one of my best friends, who was also my editor, Brett Bachman.
It's so important to have a good relationship with your editor.
Oh my
it's
God.
like they're like your hands.
They have to be a good hang too,
Yeah.
you know. I would come home and I'd just be like, just so drained. And part of it is the politics of continuing the conversations of shaping the thing with the studio and everything else. But it really is like, it's a commitment. It's like a, even though I pitched this thing Valentine's Day of last year, and it's coming out a week shy of Valentine's Day this year, which is pretty fucking crazy.
It's a pretty good turnaround.
Pretty good turnaround. I'm definitely weighing, okay, well, it's certainly a family conversation of like what the next thing will be, and where do we go if the thing is like come back to Auckland, or, you know, if I ever had the privilege of shooting in California, and I'm hoping to this year with some more commercial stuff, like truly like brands commercial stuff. I want to hire as many people who've been affected as possible so that I don't abandon, my town.
That's one of the things I've seen a lot of people say, like, brands, please, right now in this time of disaster, don't think it's like bad to like bring your work to Los Angeles. Bring as much work as possible.
Yeah.
Help these people get back on their feet. We are a town of industry, and it's like when you had the writer's strike, it's like that thing went on forever, and you had to kind of rally the people around you to be like, okay, if they're going to stay on strike. And then all of a sudden with the fires, and it's not just the news, for those who are not from Los Angeles might just think it is those that have privilege, that have lost their homes, but it's affecting every Angelino. It's like every single rung of the ladder is being affected. And it's not just one kind of person. It's not just those that live on the beachfront in Malibu. It is a citywide thing that's happening right now.
Absolutely. It truly is. Yeah. And I'm really privileged to work with AMC. And they've entrusted me to help like bring my horror sensibility into them, basically making like branded short films. They call me,
that's
they're
awesome.
like, they're ambassador of horror.
Oh, I love that.
And they're,
I wish I had put that in your intro. The ambassador of horror.
We can tag it on. We're basically just getting started. But the wonderful thing about my creative team over there at the content room, they're like the in-house like branded team at AMC, is they're down to do as much as we can here. The one thing we were able to do last year when we kind of announced our partnership was in LA, and I was able to hire many people like right after the strike, and it was
that's awesome.
it was such a phenomenal feeling. Yeah.
So that's another thing. Like, I don't want LA to lose you, because you are bringing, like, that's the thing I love about Los Angeles, is that like when we band together, we really come together.
Yeah.
And you just see all of this love right now, this outpouring of these people that are like, everyone's lost something. Let's all get together, donate our time, donate our resources. I mean, the theaters in Los Angeles, like the New Beverly, the Vista, I think the Cinematheque was doing it. I think Vidiot's was doing it, but just doing free screenings.
Oh,
Like,
it's
coming to the movie theater.
such a relief. Yeah, absolutely. People have truly, there was just an article like, people flock to the theaters to escape. And that's like, I am truly making movies, especially horror movies, for people to escape the horrors of their lives. That's the kind of films I want to make.
And also, like, you are becoming a genre guy. because like Werewolves Within, now you have this slasher. And when I talked to Mick Garris about this, and we talked about how it's like the movie kids are all kind of the weird kids, and Eli Roth says like you have to find your tribe. And I felt that growing up, like I had to find my tribe, and thankfully I had the internet to help me do that. But the genre kids are the weird kids inside of the weird kids. And horror, I think, is oftentimes misunderstood, but it's really just a way to escape.
Yeah, it truly is. Yeah. There's obviously a spectrum of genre, and I was never like a torture porn kind of gruesome horror person.
I'm not, and I'm like terrified. I saw Terrifier 3.
Wow.
I did not like Terrifier 3.
I don't know if I could do it.
I would not recommend it. I'm sorry if Matt from the Cinema Club is listening. That is like his favorite movie of last year. Matt, I hated it.
I get it. Believe me, I get it. I get that people want to see no punches pulled for all reasons cathartic and all reasons kind of liminal might not be the right word, but there's just a lizard brain thing about needing it. It's also not something
that's supposed to happen in real life, and so you see it and you know it's a movie. You know it's all fake, and you understand that, but you kind of get to go there in your mind. I prefer a happy ending.
Yeah.
I prefer a hopeful ending.
Same.
I prefer going and you have it's like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
You know that you're safe and you're going to get off at the end.
Yeah.
I'm not going to necessarily have nightmares. I like the good guy prevailing.
Yeah, I can't shoot myself and my kids in the car in the mist, at the end of
I can't either.
But I get it.
But the funny thing is, like, that's the part of the mist that totally just lost me. Because in the moment that woman walks out of the mist, and you see that he shot his kid and he's still there, it's like there's always hope.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. Keep going. You don't have to shoot your kid. If you just look a little bit harder in the mist,
the lady's going to come out of it.
Yeah, it won't be Marcia Gay Harden. It'll be someone who actually wants to help. The army even, you know what I mean?
The army even. They're coming for the mist. But that's the thing. It's like, I like a hopeful movie. I don't necessarily want... And like a lot of people love Darren Aronofsky, but like all of his movies are just so bleak.
It's intense.
And I just like leave feeling depressed. I want to feel happy when I
appreciate it, but I absolutely appreciate them. And there are some that I watch. Aronofsky I can watch just about every time. Haven't seen Mother yet, but like
actually,
that's the
Mother's
thing.
the one I like though.
Yeah, okay.
I love Mother.
Good.
Mother's great. You should watch Mother.
Yeah,
I'm excited for you.
But I don't know. I'm more of a Joe Dante, Sam Raimi boy. I like to have fun and like to get, blood splashed without it just, holding on the sinews snapping for terribly long.
So besides Jaws, were those the other movies like Gremlins, Evil Dead, etc. that like you kind of latched onto and enjoy watching?
Evil Dead criminally was a much later discovery, but the early horror for me was like it was Jason Lives, which is a massive inspiration for Hard Eyes and just like what I wanted to do tonally, especially for Hard Eyes, just in terms of like his tool belt of death. But all things Joe Dante, although The Howling was a late watch, I didn't love it nearly as much as Gremlins or The Burbs. And Stephen King's Cat's Eye, weirdly, was a big one.
I've
Drew
seen
Barrymore
that.
and the cat. I was a cat person.
I am
100%
a cat person, and I love that troll in it.
Yeah.
Because I also like love trolls, and we call him like the little guy.
Yeah.
And I love like movies that have the little guy in them. And you're kind of describing like Gremlins. They're the little guys.
Yeah.
And I love these creatures, and I love critters, and I just love this amalgamation of just like fantastical movies.
Yeah.
Because there are horror that have fantasy elements in them.
I know. It's why I'm like yearning for a new Pumpkinhead. I'm like, bring it on. Bring on all that slimy, crittery creature shit. I'm all about it.
I wonder why we don't have as many of those movies anymore.
They're not easy to do, and if you do them, like when they've done, I think my buddy Rob Savage did a very good Boogeyman take, but at some point you're gonna have to rely on or lean on the oh, God forbid, not just the VFX, just the flame
like
art.
The Unreal Engine.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think, that is one thing I think about, like, is it a dying art? Is it just because the medium has changed? Like, we're no longer really doing a lot of practical. There are still people that do practical.
There certainly are. Unfortunately, generative AI or VFX in general, the Unreal, to your point, it's so picture real. It's almost just like a sensibility or philosophy thing. If you know that it wasn't tactile with a group of five.
So like, I went to go see Twisters, and I saw it in 4DX, which was like a patriotic experience. I was like doing the Pledge of Allegiance and like crying as the wind
like
swept
singing
through
along
the
to that Garth Brooks every time that shit rolls through town. Yeah.
But in Twisters, it's like I'm watching on the screen. I'm like, oh my God. They're just like on the Unreal Engine. Like I can just look and I can just see. And like in the substance, I'm like, they're just on a stage, and it's just stage work.
Yeah.
And for me, that's someone like I'm probably a pill to watch a movie with in the theaters with my friends, because I'm like, oh well, they're on stage, or oh it's like this. And I like stage work. I love matte paintings. Matte paintings I think are beautiful.
Yeah.
But like modern day CGI doesn't excite me the way that like a matte painting does.
No, it doesn't for me either. It doesn't for me either. It was just I wonder if I wonder how it will, not if it will, but how it will live beyond kind of generations. Like it's nice to hear and see young people appreciating it, but will it be applied?
Well,
and
like,
I wonder.
would you, as a child, have been as interested in Jaws if the shark had been CGI?
It's hard to tell because I go
Yeah.
back. I used to love Flight of the Navigator, and I had no
that's a
idea that it
great
was
movie.
like, yeah, I didn't recognize the effects for being anything less than chintzy, and it was technically computer graphics of some kind back
well,
then.
it's like I think of Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
I think that the computer graphics in Starship Troopers are fantastic.
Yeah, yes,
And I
too,
think Galaxy
super.
Quest, like I think that's a great. I love Galaxy
Perfect.
Quest. I think
Perfect.
I think it actually the word perfect is it's a perfect movie.
It
I
is.
think
It
Galaxy- and
is.
I'm a
It's
huge
perfect in the imperfection. It's like what I love about Severance is like just the technology, just the idea of these like kind of almost like Star Wars
God, Severance is so good,
1970s.
yeah.
So it's just like, oh, their computer programs are stuck in like Oregon Trail territory, and it's just perfect.
God, I used to play the Oregon Trail as a
Yes.
kid, and I used to make it like me and then all the people in my class.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's like, oh no, Billy died of dysentery. Boo hoo.
Yeah,
He's the
sorry,
Billy.
sorry, Tanner. You know,
Sorry,
like-
Tanner. You bullied me on the bus.
It's just funny though, but I wonder that though, because I think people are being raised differently than they were. I mean, now we have our phones, and I think it's a great thing to have because one, you have a camera in your pocket, you can go and make a movie. Sean Baker is an example of that. He made Tangerine with his iPhone. But you're also getting so much beamed at your brain, and a lot of people just go into monkey mode and they just
Yeah.
go into lizard brain and they just want to shut off. But my dad always reminds me, he's like, when watercolors came about, like oils still existed. People still paint with them.
It's true.
There was a
It's true.
time where people stopped, but then it came back. So I have hope.
I have hope too in the oh, Ruby came to say hello. It's the
And
other
there's
cat.
a cat
I
here.
know.
I'm
Yeah,
so
we're
excited.
cat people.
We're cat people. Where are my cat people at?
Right here. Oh, she loves a guest. I
It's like the best part of my day. Oh my god, what a cat!
She's
that
so
says hello.
stoked. The thing that gives me hope in part with the younger generation, I keep hearing these stories about. I have nieces and nephews who are quite young, but I haven't communicated with them about this specifically yet. There's a lot of kids who grew up with parents whose faces were in their phones and who would hand them iPads, and now they're starting, some contingents of these younger folks are starting book clubs.
Oh, they're starting to rebel.
Starting to rebel, and I that snap reaction gives me immense hope because they're hip, they get it, they're recognizing that it's harmful, and how much, I don't know, the book is becoming the cigarette. Like it's,
Isn't
you know what
that
I'm saying?
funny? But that's so true. So I go to this like local boba cafe, and I started going there after COVID because it was like the one place that I could go to and I could take my mask off at the table, and it helped me like reintegrate back into society. And the owner, she uses it as like an incubator. So she hires from the local high school. It's a place for the kids to go. It's like your first job. You learn how to cash a paycheck. You learn responsibility, and then you graduate and you go to college. And so you have this under your belt. And I love those kids because I get to see them kind of grow up and then they go to college. And a lot of them carry a book with them.
I
And
love
I'm
that.
And then also like they've all started going to the gym together.
Oh,
And I think like
and
it's
none of them are gonna drink, I think, ever.
no, a lot of them don't. It's really, really fascinating. And I think it's just such a good influence. And you think like, where are they getting these good influences from? And it makes me really proud. I'm very proud of them. Like when they're reading their book or when they ask me, they're like, hey, like I saw this movie. I saw The Thing. Have you ever seen it? I'm like, oh yeah,
The
come sit with me.
Criterion letterbox culture of
The
that's
letterbox culture.
bringing in younger people is so inspiring.
I'm inspired.
I'd like to think that it spreads as far as like Iowa.
I think it's all over.
I think it
honestly.
is, right?
So I've been on Letterboxd probably 10 years now. I remember this
Wow,
girl
you're early.
this girl on a forum board was like, "Hey, you like movies? Have you ever seen this website?" And I used to write like reviews on there. And the guy that started Hooptober was one of the first people that followed me on Letterboxd. And he always would like my reviews and tell me like keep going. And it was a huge motivation for me as like a young person. Like, okay, I
Yeah.
have something to say. And I started a film club during COVID, and we pulled people from Letterboxd, and I had people from India, from the Philippines, and like all these like young people. They're like,
Wow.
I feel inspired to make movies, And like you see the guy from the Philippines and he loves Bollywood, but then he watches Twilight and he's like,
Yeah.
this is modern day Bollywood. Like this
Yeah.
is American Bollywood. And it's just amazing to see the connections that young people have with
Yes.
cinema and how it brings people from all walks of life together.
Yes, yeah, it's super, super inspiring to hear a younger person be like, "Have you seen this? Have you seen Kuroneko?" You know what I mean? I'm just like, no, I've seen Weekend at Bernie's, but you should check that out as well."
I love that when someone's like, have you seen this? And I'm like, I remember someone was like, oh, have you seen La La Land? I'm like, check out Umbrellas of Cherbourg. See what you think. Let's talk then.
Wow.
My new one, though, my new theory is that the substance is the Nutty Professor. Eddie Murphy's the Nutty Professor specifically. And I know people online were telling me, oh, golly, they're both Jekyll and Hyde stories. But the Nutty Professor involves a scene with a turkey, jazzercise, and an ending where his body grows and grows and grows.
Oh my God, they should intercut the grow with a pop that then douses a whole theater with his professor blood. That would be phenomenal.
I know. I like to make these weird connections because I don't think that, like, if you're in one genre, you can totally be influenced by another.
Yeah. Oh, completely. Oh my gosh. I mean, I've been stitching romantic comedies with horror for the past year in my brain, going like, wow, that same level of blue moonlight as Tom Hanks is talking to his dead wife on the couch is the same blue moonlight this slasher is going to pass through, and they might blend.
Have you seen, I think it might be You've Got Mail, but it also might be Sleepless in Seattle, but there's this version of the trailer on YouTube that they turned it into a horror movie.
Oh yeah,
That's
all
like
those thrillers are great.
That's
Well,
one of my favorites.
she is a stalker. I mean,
Yeah.
you watch it now and you kind of go like, Love Actually is creepy and Meg Ryan's unhinged.
I think
Like,
all
Bill
of the
Pullman
rom-coms-
loves you, sweetie. Like, come on, stay put, girl. Like, what are you gonna
I think
do?
all of the rom-coms are kind of these like wild tales and these like wild stories.
Oh, I always do impressions of like Liam Neeson going, "She's perfect," like him just like leaning down to his like young boy, and he'd be like, "You have to tell her that she's perfect every day." And I'm like, oh my God, that's it's like a 6-year-old boy with spiky hair who doesn't understand sex, like to just watch your 7-foot tall, like mildly Irish dad lean down and be like, "You have to tell women that they're perfect." And I'm like, oh my God, the lessons.
That is so great. I mean, I just rewatched Four Weddings and a Funeral.
Oh,
I just watched it for
wow.
the first time because I'll go to the local VH. I'll go to Be Kind Video in Burbank and I'll just buy all the $1 tapes. And so I'll buy like 100 $1 tapes. I'll bring them home and then I'll just pop on once a night. I'll just pop it on.
Oh my God.
And then I'll return them for $1. They kind of let me do these rentals because they don't rent anymore tapes.
Yeah.
But I watched that and I was like, this movie's actually kind of weird. Like, I don't know how I feel
Yeah,
about
is it
this.
problematic? Is
Well,
it good?
For me,
Is it?
I don't. My
haven't
favorite
seen it.
genre is like men who love their wives. Like Mad Max is a man who loves his wife. Frantic, Harrison Ford loves his wife.
Gladiator? Have you seen the OG? My
that's
God,
the thing.
he
It's
loves
like
his
he
wife.
loves his wife, and so like, I love men who love their wives. When I'm watching a rom com and their first instinct is to cheat or to try
Yeah.
to break up a marriage, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah, Alan
don't-
Rickman just buying a treat for, or like even Chevy Chase in like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It's like, come on, bud.
No, I'm not into that. I'm into men who love their wives.
Yeah.
I want the perfect romance. I want that family because that's what a romance movie is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Even
yeah.
if they are star-crossed or like kind of in the wrong place. But
Yeah.
I believe in the sanctity of marriage.
Well, did you see Honora?
No, not yet.
Oh my gosh, there's a great kind of romantic thread in there that I just that leaves you on a high note. I feel.
You feel okay?
Yeah.
I have the screener at home, so I think
I
I gotta
would
pop
check it
on.
out,
Okay.
yeah.
And also Sean, I think, is a master, and he is one of those great LA filmmakers.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
yeah
he's
he
doing a
is.
great job. So your next movie, are you going to bring it to LA if you can?
If I could bring anything to LA, I would. You've convinced me. Stay put, get our people working. I mean, what I'd like to do is not be forced to or relegated to shooting outside of our country because that's where the tax incentive
That's
are.
I mean, Georgia has a pretty good tax incentive, and I think Louisiana also does. I think Louisiana might be like a 70 or 80 cash back, like the match.
Wow.
I think Louisiana is the good one right now.
I know they're doing Scream there right now, and they had done a bunch. I actually did something. We had a, you're not allowed to call it a waiver, but we had the allowance to be able to shoot a project I did last year, or was it the year before, in Atlanta, and the people who were out of work, you get this star crew and you kind of realize like, holy shit, there are incredible people who just want to make stuff, and I can't imagine just like you're an operator and you live in Georgia, and if you're not on strike, but if the studio is going, yeah, but the dollar will stretch further in Ireland. My heart breaks for folks who...
And those are great crews. The Georgia
Absolutely.
crews, the Louisiana
No
crews
joke.
are amazing. And like, it's funny because Canada used to be kind of the biggest place that people would go
Yeah.
to do the co-pros. I remember Winnipeg used to have like this amazing kind of tax
Yeah.
incentive, but they only had 2 crews. And it was like an A crew, a B crew, and then they kind of had like a motley C crew. And then Netflix came in, and then you could just never get a crew because
Yeah.
Netflix was using both. And that's great if they can bring the money up there and stuff. But if we have the ability to keep filmmaking, I mean, first in the United States, and then next in California, and then even further in Los Angeles.
We have to. I mean, I've been trying to figure out a project to do with Mark Duplass since we worked together on the Creep tapes, and it's unfortunate that they have to be super low budget to be accomplishable in California, at least in the immediate, as far as my kind of independent level stuff is concerned. But if that's what it's going to be, unfortunately, I know that there are folks who would love to come out and do it because they're like, fuck yeah, I want to sleep in my own bed tonight. And like, I get to exercise my talent.
My dad said when he made Rules of Attraction, it's like all of a sudden, okay, you have Faye Dunaway, who's like, I'll come down for a day.
Yeah.
And like, people just like want to come and hang out on set because like, if it's not their day on, but it's really fun. And they just get to go home and sleep in their bed at night. So
that's
like,
all we want.
Why not be in the movie? And just
Yeah.
my dad always describes when you have to take your army on like an away mission, and you actually have to take them, it's always more difficult than when you're at home.
I know.
And when you're defending your own turf.
Well, it's a gamble. I mean, it's my first studio film, and it's like I had to fly across the world to work with strangers who, thank God, turned out to be some of the most wonderful, most talented people on the planet. But it was really tough to not be able to take any of my former collaborators, and so I hope that ship gets righted, that I can both enjoy folks from around the world, but bring the majority of my stuff home. I'd love to, and I'm heartened that the incentives here have been broadened, but labor costs and material costs have to meet those incentives.
It all has to balance out.
It has to balance.
In the end, it's like you have a budget and you have to see like where you spend your money. And it's just hopefully it all fits. But we have to keep you personally here in LA. I'm starting a campain to keep Josh Ruben in LA.
Oh, man. Okay, you've convinced me,
I mean,
Gala.
look, LA is a big place.
If I move to Joshua Tree, at least for a minute, does that count? Or is it too far? Are you that like, come on, dude.
You know what? If it's for a minute, you're okay.
Yeah.
But
But it's like you can't go to the Vista if you live in J-Tree.
That's
Come
the
on.
thing. You can't go to the Vista if you live in J-Tree. You can't go to Cantor's if you live in J-Tree. You can't...
Can't pop over to Waltz and then check a movie out at Vidiots. Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
you can't do all those things if you live in J-Tree. And it's like, I'm just on the edge because I'm on that border between Ventura County and Los Angeles County. And it's like, I'm just on the edge. And I've put myself on the edge out there because that's kind of where I want to be. I like having the kind of both lives that I get to live. But it is a slog. And it's like, as soon as like you leave the city, and then it's the question is like, when you leave a city, like I lived up in Ojai, and it's a beautiful place. You start to forget why you want to be in the city.
Yeah.
Because you just start loving the nature, and you start loving the peace and the clean air, and the energy is different.
Yeah.
So it's just a choice.
That's why we're mourning Altadena and I'm sure people are mourning Palisades for the same reason. It sounded like this kind of enclave.
Yeah, it's a community with people, and like people grew up there, and
yeah, but it's this escape, this bubble of a small town in a big city, and I think finding that's the thing I've loved about Los Angeles. Like I'm here in Echo Park, is it does feel like its own little paint swatch of
Well, Los Angeles is kind of a bunch of neighborhoods that make up one city. It's not like oh my God, I have a cat with me.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's not like the other city that Los Angeles gets compared to is Houston all the time, but Houston is homogenous.
Oh, Ruby.
Sorry, Ruby.
Be nice. My cat is like the most sensitive and unusual Russian blue.
It's a beautiful cat.
Yeah.
But they always describe it as Houston. And they say that Houston is the other city that's as diverse as Los Angeles. But Houston, everyone is kind of like, they're not in different neighborhoods. Like, it's not like you have like little Ethiopia and Chinatown and Thai Town. And then over here you have the Jewish neighborhood. And over here you have this and that.
Yeah.
And like, then Torrance is like, all the Asians are in Torrance. Houston's all together. But Los Angeles, we're so distinctly different that it makes it great. You can go to any neighborhood and have a great time.
Yeah, you can almost disappear into the culture of any, which reminds me about the great stuff about New York. As you walk through New York, the geography changes, and the types of clothes and the attitudes and the temperaments and and yet it's still New York through and through. I don't know, Gala, you've convinced me. Maybe we stick it out a little bit further. The trick is, how do we, spread out a little bit and feel like we're making a home. But you know what I've learned? Home is where you have each other and your pet and maybe some nice music, and who needs things if you can get through it with your homies or your loved one.
Oh my God, I think that's my timer's just about to go off.
Whoa.
I think you kind of ended it at the perfect place.
Whoa, nailed.
Home is where your heart is.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that disasters like these make people more appreciative of the life that we all have together. And so, Josh, I'm really glad that you're here in Los Angeles. Thank you for being here.
You've convinced me. I'm not going nowhere.
Yeah, don't go nowhere. This is our home. We are Angelinos. We have to stay, and we have to rebuild, and we have to do it all together.
Yeah, amen.
So that's all the time that we have for today. But Josh, is there any final thought that you want to share with the audience?
Come to LA.
Yeah,
come shoot in LA. Come hang in LA. I'll be here.
That's it for today. So thank you so much to my guest, Josh Ruben, for coming onto the show. If you'd like to keep up with Josh, you can do so on his Instagram, Josh Ruben. And also make sure to go and see Heart Eyes, which will be in theaters on February 7th, just in time for Valentine's Day or a Galentine's Day. I'm kind of pushing this whole, you can take your girlfriends to the movie, I'll go together. I think this is a really fun one, actually, if you don't have a boyfriend to take you. Go with your gal pals, because the thing I like about this is it's a genre mashup, so it's like a rom-com, but I also feel a little bit of like poking fun at the Hallmark movies in there. And it tickled me, honestly, to see the references. And there's this one monologue that features like all these romance movie references, and I was like, oh my God, I got them all. I feel very proud as a woman. Thanks again, Josh.
Thank you.
I'm Gala Avery, and this has been The Gala Show. The Gala Show is brought to you by Avery.com. This episode was executive produced by Roger Avery and produced by Gala Avery. Music composed by Andy Milburn. As always, I'm your host, Gala Avery. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved. Despite me sharing the same last name with this charity, I don't have any affiliation with it, besides the fact that the issue is very near and dear to my heart. Did you know that in the United States, 2.7 million children currently have a parent in prison, and it's estimated that 10 million children have experienced parental incarceration at some point in their lives? I was one of these kids, and as an adult, I am really grateful to be able to give back to Project Avery. Their mission is to build leadership from within by supporting community through programs such as mentoring and outdoor education, and also to remove the stigma surrounding having a parent that's incarcerated. You don't have to feel alone. If you know a kid who could use these resources or would like to donate money or time to the charity, please go to Project Avery, that's AVARY.org, to check out what this amazing charity is all about. Again, that's projectavery.org. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart.